are free people living on our land. We are free people working on our land. We are free people living on our land. We are free people working on our land.
As mining companies become more desperate in the search for oil and gas, they're using more extreme methods of extraction, including a process called fracking. Fracking has been used in Eastern Australia and overseas for several years. Now the gas companies are starting to use this risky process in the Northern Territory to develop shale gas reserves on land and offshore.
Water. I was talking about water the other day, about this gas company coming in to drill in our country. And we don't want anybody coming in and destroying that area because we got song lines, we got history and everything. It's very beautiful, that country, for me and you to share.
We didn't know this thing called fracking. We didn't know anything about shale gas. I've only ever grew up knowing about Ranger mine, open cut mine, and bachelor rum jungle mine. When he said the word fracking, we didn't understand the word fracking. We started doing research, and more we learned about it, the more alarmed we was. And we thought about, okay, it was up to me and her, it was up to us to make a voice, it was up to us to alert everyone in Arnhem land, especially in Mellor, affected area where this fracking was going to start.
They want to go back and open around the canyon there, do them fracking. And they said it was going to be safe, they just sink that thing down, and they were showing us all sorts of things, how they're going to do it on a paper, them. Oh, this is how they're going to do it, this is how they're going to do it, and it's going to be really safe. And nobody really knows it's going to be safe, So I think they had a bit of problem up in Queensland way sometimes. And they want to go ahead and do Wattarka National Park now, but we are going to say no all the time, Because we live there, we drink that water, the birds and the animals drink that water.
We let this happen without so much as a whimper in our country. We'd had conventional oil and gas drilling. The companies came to us and said, we want to do this new thing with coal bed methane and tight sands and shale gas. And it's just like what you've been used to, but a few special techniques, and we want to be members of the community, and we want to provide jobs, and we want to help improve your situation, so to speak. But it didn't turn out that way.
Fracking involves drilling a gas well deep into the earth and pumping lots of water, chemicals and sand into the ground to crack the rocks and get the trapped gas to flow to the surface. Fracking can poison underground and surface waters with toxic chemicals and gas when wells fail or leak. In Eastern Australia and overseas, fracking has been used in many areas, including near towns and farms. There have been lots of chemical spills, gas leaks and incidents of poisoned water caused by fracking. Even after 10 or 20 years, when the gas company has left and the wells have been shut down, some gas can leak and continue to poison the land and water.
It's changed everything about our farming operation. We can't drink the water out of the wells anymore. We have to ventilate our homes so they won't explode because of the methane that comes out of the water.
Once that fracking goes ahead, we want to be able to drink the water from the well or the streams. We want to keep it clean and fresh and everything alive for you and me and the next generation to hold on to.
If fracking goes ahead, what then? Just imagine if something go wrong, how are we supposed to go back on country? We won't have that access on country like we used to. there'll be a barrier, there'll be fence up that we are not allowed to go back on country. How are we supposed to explain that to our children when they want to go back there and hunt and gather? And then what about our water system? In Arnhem land, we've got volumes of water that come from the stone country, come down on the floodplains into the ocean. We hunt along the rivers. We go to our billabongs, natural springs, eat and drink water there. Imagine if that water is contaminated from one little area to a vast area. How are we supposed to survive?
If it get contaminated, we'll probably end up dead or with diseases like cancers and all that for drinking that contaminated water.
Poison wastewater from fracking is stored in big dams that can leak or overflow during flooding. Some companies get rid of this wastewater by dumping it in creeks and rivers or pumping it back underground.
That's the main concern, is what's going to happen there with this water usage, both iron ore, which and ilmenite mining, and this fracking mining. All of it uses a fair bit of water. Some of those exploration applications have already been approved, and in particular the one up at the headquarters here, which is sort of north of the Wattarka thermal hot springs there. Basically it's just going to stuff the whole area, because as you're well aware, everyone relies on water. If we've got no water, we've got nothing.
I just thought, was thinking of the fracking part alone, so just how terrible that is with the just totally wrecking water and stuff. So that's bad enough on its own. But after watching the video where it shows those gas plants everywhere, dotted all over your whole countryside, that's doubly worse.
Pipelines, plants, accommodation.
There's no way you can run a business. There's no way you can run a cattle business with that.
We've got the last untouched country in the Gulf, and we need to protect that country. And also we need to protect all our dreaming sites, sacred sites. We live off this land, bush tuckers and all that, you know what I mean? Well, that'll take everything away from us. That'll take our land away, that'll take our dreaming away, that'll take our stories away, our culture will be nothing. That's why we're here standing strong and fighting for it and showing people our culture, because our culture tells us that we come from the country. We are the people from the country, and all their dreaming, out there, that's our proof, that's our evidence out there in the land.
Shale gas production often needs thousands of wells to extract gas from underground. One well can quickly turn into a gas field with many, many wells. Lots of bush has to be cleared to build well pads, gas pipelines and roads for trucks. Gas fields also have big noisy processing plants and compressors running day and night.
The mining mob come to us asking for permission to do fracking on the park. And we told them that we didn't want any fracking on the park because, we live off that water there in the streams, under the ground. I don't know what will happen if they do contaminate the water, Yeah. That's what it's all about, I reckon. And we don't want our park to be thinking about miners, looking around for that thing, fracking things. We just want it to be the way it is. Because it's got, tourism values, cultural values, and park values, That land is special to us. Tourism, they go to see a rugged land, They don't want to go and see wells sticking up, out of the ground or anything like that, big trucks going backwards and forward. That's just going to wreck the wild, rugged beauty of that land.
Toxic chemicals and gases from the gas fields pollute the air and make the global warming problem worse. In communities near gas fields, some people are getting very sick since the gas companies moved in.
I guess the first health impacts I really saw were with my mother-in-law. She lost her sense of smell and her sense of taste. And at first we thought maybe it was something unique to her, but now my wife is having the same problems. And a lot of the neighbor ladies are losing their smell and their taste. And there's women who have neuropathy where their arms and their legs go numb. And a lot of the men suffer chronic fatigue and ringing of the ears and chronic headaches. But I think the thing that probably disturbs me the most are our children seem to be the most susceptible to this. Kids with nosebleeds, kids with kidney failure. We can't even hardly go outside at times because the fumes from the production tanks are horrible. We have BTEX chemicals that evaporate out of the tanks. You can taste it.
It's not just that you've got this tinny taste in your mouth. You can't eat. You get to the point where you start to throw up because it is just so intense, this horrible taste in your mouth. Then we've got the constant headaches. Then you've got the nosebleeds. And I'm not talking about a nosebleed. I'm talking about nosebleeds that last for 3-4 days in a row, non-stop.
Despite all the environmental and health risks from fracking, the NT government is pushing ahead with this unsafe industry, promising jobs and development opportunities.
You know, open for business. Maybe your business, but it's not ours. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It's your business. It's not our business. Our business is to look after this country, look after this land today, how it has been for the last, 300,000 years.
Politicians seem to be very pro mining and not really listening to the people, the community. There's very few people that I know that are for it, other than the odd person that's making a few bucks out of it.
Me and you gotta work together, find some solution how we can work together and maintain this country. Look after it better way instead of chucking poison down the beautiful earth we have here in our ground and our water system.
There are already gas exploration licences and applications over more than 90% of the territory, all the way from coastal Arnhem land, through the Gulf country and right down to the Central Desert. The territory's wet season makes fracking operations and managing wastewater dams even more risky up here than in other parts of Australia.
In the territory, we don't get little rain. We get monsoon, we get cyclone. And they try and tell us, oh, it's going to be all right. No, it's not going to be all right, because you don't know that. You don't know this area. You don't know this land. We know it better than you. How can you tell us that?
The large amount of water used in fracking would also put severe pressure on the territory's healthy underground water supplies. This water is important to the survival of people, animals and plants across the arid regions of the NT.
Because we drink that water, we got bores there and we just pump water when we run out. We just put the bore on and just pump the water out. And if they contaminate that, well, what we got to drink, How can they clean that mess up?
The use of traditional fire management practices to care for country would not be possible around gas fields due to the risks from gas leaks and explosions. There are not many legal options for landholders to stop unwanted drilling, and there are no strong laws or environmental regulations to protect our land, water and communities from fracking.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of getting fracking approved or a fracking operation approved on Aboriginal land in the Territory. So it's a different procedure from a pastoral land or freehold land for Aboriginal land, and it means that the traditional owners of a piece of Aboriginal land have a significant amount of power to say yes or no to fracking. But they have that power at the earliest stage, so that's prior to exploration by a company. First step of the process is the traditional owners say, yes, NLC, you can negotiate with the mining company to come up with an agreement to allow exploration on the land. After they get to that point, the NLC will then negotiate with the mining company and come up with a formalised written agreement. That agreement will then be presented at another meeting to the traditional owners, who will then find out what the mining company will do for them in terms of royalties, in terms of payment. They might agree to put in place an educational facility or other things, and that agreement will either then be agreed to by the traditional owners or not. If they agree to that agreement that's been presented to them by the mining company and the NLC, the company will then be allowed to do fracking exploration on their land. After that point, they have no ability to say no again. And that means that fracking exploration can take place, and quite often that involves fracking itself. But if they then find gas reserves or oil reserves on that land, they are then able to move to full production, and the Aboriginal traditional owners have no right to say no at that point. So the implication for that is they are saying yes or no to this process at a very early stage where very little is known about what it might look like, whether they're going to have 1 well, 100 wells or 1,000 wells on their land.
This land is not for sale. This land is our Mother Earth. And if you want to know about our philosophy, come and visit us. This is what you wrote to us, and we say no.
They're trying to bribe us with money and all that up front, so people can just turn to say yes to the mining and to the NT government. They just don't listen. They got to come up with bribes, put money first, so people can turn their thoughts, to say yes. But we at Wattarka want the mining mob not to go on our land to do fracking or anything, We want them to stop before they start.
Here in the Northern Territory, we've got a long history about protecting people and country against mining. In Jabiru, the Mirara people fought for Borroloola not to have uranium mine. In Makari Station, they fought a long battle and made sure that their country wasn't contaminated by the nuclear waste. In Arnhem Land, Protect Arnhem Land went into Canberra with a bark petition and fought for the fracking not to happen on country, especially the sea.
Fracking is a big threat here and across Australia, but people are standing up to protect the land. All over the country, communities are taking action to prevent unwanted drilling and fracking. They are holding marches and protests, building gas field-free community networks, and supporting each other to stand up to the reckless actions of gas companies and governments. Here in the NT, people are learning from the successful actions and joining together to stop this industry before it spreads. From the desert to the salt water, communities, clan groups and landholders are working together to protect country from fracking.
More and more, the community, councils and country are banning fracking because of the damage it's causing on land and sea. As one voice, we need to get together and fight for our freedom and making sure that our environment is healthy and safe.
They mucked up the other areas around the world, and now they're going to come to the last frontier in Arnhem Land, where there's the last low language. And all this that we have in here, they are coming to destroy it for us. To protect Arnhem Land is for you and me. That's why I'm singing out to you, all your countrymen here in this Arnhem Land, if we can all come together as one people, one voice, one mind. Come and join Protect Arnhem Land, please.
It's up to us to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We need to look after our country. As Aboriginal people and of Australian, please, we need to make sure that our environment stays with us for the long term.
If you got mining on your country, Speak up for your rights. Don't let the government walk all over you. It's time to say no to mining. Don't think about the money, think about your land.
And we're not only fighting it for ourselves, but, we're fighting it for all of us. We got a lot of good white brothers and sisters coming into our country. We all live here together. We're fighting it for all of us, for our younger generation, young people coming behind. We need a clean country for all the young children's future, white and black children.
Look at it now. It's very clean. No mining anywhere here. We're going to keep this country clean and we're going to fight for it. We're going to teach our children. We don't want to go and live in the big city. That's not our life. Our life is bush and the land.
I want to show my kids that we need to say no to mining, fracking, drilling, because that's our land that we're going to survive from, and we're gonna be the strongest people that we have been for generations after generation. For that to happen, we need to keep standing together, keep fighting, keep pushing, gather in our brothers and sisters out there that helping us along the way, and we want people to hear us. Mining is no good for our country. Keep fighting, keep saying no. Don't let anyone tell you what to do on your own land.
Working on our